With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yulana Weeks.
Our top stories.
St. Kitts and Nevis's Agriculture Minister views the crossroads in Caribbean agriculture as both a challenge and an opportunity.
ECCB highlights financial strength and initiatives amid global uncertainty at chairmanship ceremony.
Sagicor Life Incorporated St. Kitts organizes health screening to promote preventative care.
St. Kitts and Nevis advances water supply through groundwater development. Guyana Vice President dismisses political persecution claim. St. Lucia advances low-emission goals with EV and energy waste workshop. Internationally, European Union places strongest sanctions yet on Russia.
Now, the details.
Samuel Duggins, Minister of Agriculture, St. Kitts and Nevis, said despite mounting challenges, the region holds immense potential for agricultural revitalization. From climate change to economic shifts and global trade pressures, agriculture, once the backbone of many island economies, now struggles to compete with imported goods that are often cheaper. Additionally, hurricanes, droughts, and rising temperatures further threaten crop yields, placing immense strain on farming communities. Duggins was speaking at the virtual launch of the 19th Caribbean Week of Agriculture to be hosted in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis from September 29th to October 3, 2025.
The Caribbean's agricultural sector stands today at a defining crossroads. The impact of climate change, global pandemics, geopolitical conflicts, and persistent supply chain disruptions have laid bare the vulnerabilities in our food systems. We face not only the physical threat of more intense hurricanes, droughts, and floods, but also logistical challenges, from high shipping costs to unreliable inter-island transport, which hinders our ability to move goods effectively and efficiently across our very own region. These challenges, however, have also illuminated our resilience. They have revealed the creativity and the determination of our farmers, our fishers, scientists, policymakers, and entrepreneurs. They have underscored our capacity to adapt, our capacity to innovate, and our capacity to build systems that are not merely reactive, but proactive and also sustainable.
Like other agriculture ministers and leaders, Duggins continued to promote regional integration and food sovereignty. He believes that strengthening inter-island trade and food production, the region can reduce its dependency on imports and build a more secure food and health system.
Now is the time for us to sow the seeds of true transformation. We must craft deliberate policies. We must invest in climate-smart agriculture and innovative technologies. We must empower our youth and our women and commit ourselves anew to the cause of food and nutrition security and sovereignty. If we act decisively and act together, what we shall harvest is not only resilience in our field and our seas, but we shall harvest economic stability, social equity, and a much healthier future for all of our people. As the host nation, St. Kitts and Nevis is indeed honored to provide a stage where regional partnerships are sure to be deepened, where new knowledge will be shared, and where the spirit of innovation is expected to flourish.
The guided theme, Sowing, Change, Harvesting, Resilience, Transforming Our Caribbean Food Systems for 2025 and Beyond, reflects not only urgency, but a call to action for the region to forge a path toward a sustainable, secure, and self-reliant future. Duggins reaffirmed the Federation's commitment to bold, unified action to help transform the region's agricultural sector.
And let me close this by affirming that St. Kitts and Nevis is committed not merely as a host, but as active partners in advancing our shared vision of a resilient, a productive, and an inclusive agricultural future. We here in St. Kitts and Nevis eagerly look forward to welcoming you in person this September, where together we will not only discuss change, but we will actively sow the seeds for it. Let us rise to this challenge, united as one Caribbean family, determined to harvest a resilient and a prosperous future for generations yet to come. Thank you, and may Caribbean Week of Agriculture 2025 be the most impactful Caribbean Week of Agriculture in our region's history.
The July 17th, 2025 handover ceremony for the chairmanship of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Monetary Council also served as a platform to highlight the bank's current financial health and strategic priorities and the complex and rapidly shifting global economic landscape. ECCB Governor Timothy Antoine addressing dignitaries, including the new chair, the Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, delivered an overview of the bank's recent achievements and the pressing economic challenges facing the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Rejecting concerns over monetary stability, Antoine confirmed that the fixed peg of the EC dollar to the US dollar remains unshaken with a current foreign reserve backing of 97.5% compared to the statutory minimum of 60%. He underscored that
foreign reserves now amount to $5.5 billion, an increase of $351.1 million over the previous year. So you can see that on screen. In terms of financial stewardship, as evidenced by our recently published annual report, the assets of the central bank continue to grow and now exceed $6 billion. And our central bank recorded a profit of $126.2 million, the largest in its 42-year history.
Despite this strength, the governor acknowledged areas needing reform, particularly in customer service and the ease of opening bank accounts, a pressing issue for many in the region. The governor also offered a frank appraisal of the global economic milieu characterized by a reordering of the global order with new geo-economic challenges reminiscent of epic historical shifts.
The global economy is confronting several challenges, many long-standing, combined with new and emerging ones. These challenges include a decades-long decline in growth and productivity, high debt, both public and private, dating back to the global financial crisis, a planet on fire and getting hotter each year, geopolitical conflicts, lower but stubborn inflation, and now tariffs and cyber warfare. Indeed, we are witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, a reordering of the global order, the likes of which we have not witnessed since the Second World War. In this new global order, geoeconomics is becoming the dominant paradigm, and aid budgets are being slashed as defense budgets soar.
Turning to the regional outlook, the ECCU's projected real GDP growth for 2025 stands at approximately 3%, primarily driven by the tourism and construction sectors. Tourism expenditures in the region are estimated at EC $8.9 billion for 2024, a remarkable recovery since pre-pandemic levels of EC $7.3 billion in 2019. However, limitations remain, including slower interregional travel, impacted by the absence of LIAT and elevated airfare costs. Public debt levels show encouraging signs of decline.
Since the pandemic, when the debt-to-GDP ratio in the ECCU peaked at 88%, debt to GDP has now fallen, it's coming down, and is now recorded at 76.1% at the end of last year. In respect of inflation, as at March 2025, it was 2.5%, that's a 12-month average, and it's projected to largely follow the US economy and the US trend. And if you were following the news this week, you would have heard the US came in at 2.7 for inflation at the last reporting. In 2024, 43.1% of all ECCU imports came from the United States. That's the average. Some countries are even higher than that. And the ECCU's trade deficit with the United States was EC $4.3 billion.
Emphasizing financial sector development as key to sustaining growth, the governor highlighted private sector credit growth of 7.3% in 2024.
Credit to the private sector grew by 7.3% last year, including 11.4% growth in credit to businesses and 5.1% growth in credit to households over the same period. Asset quality, which measures non-performing loans, specifically we look at that, improved marginally, falling from 10.1% in the previous year to 9.9% as of March 2025.
Governor Antoine reaffirmed the vision of the Big Push, a bold regional initiative aimed at doubling GDP in the next decade.
The key pillars of the big push include, there you see, food and nutrition security, energy security, digital transformation, human capital development, financial wealth creation, and trade logistics and shipping. And some of you may ask, I don't see tourism. All of these things support our tourism industry. And we keep making the point that we must diversify around tourism because tourism is our lead driver. These are the pillars of the big push, at least some of them. The current initiatives of our central bank are fully aligned and supportive of our big push. But collectively, we need to move even faster.
Central to this effort are several key ECCB initiatives now underway. The introduction of the ECCU First Step Savings Account provides a simplified banking product with minimal requirements designed to expand financial inclusion.
Ease of opening bank accounts. We have heard your cries and complaints, and the ECCB, in partnership with the ECCU Bankers Association, has responded with the ECCU First Step Account. The features of this account include simplified due diligence, which means you do not need 2 pieces of ID, you now need 1. No minimum balances to open. Thank you. No minimum balances to maintain the account. Interest bearing, because we understand the time value of money. And poor people must be able to bank money. So whether it's $1 or it's $1,000, you will earn interest. A cap of $36,000 initially for annual deposits. And of course, perhaps you'll graduate to bigger things, as we expect. And this account can only be closed for cause. And when I say cause, I mean money laundering, fraud, and the like. By law.
Legislative amendments supporting this innovation have been implemented across member states, signaling a commitment to institutional change.
We've taken the extra step to ensure that this arrangement has the force of law with amendments to our Banking Act. To that end, I commend St. Vincent and Grenadines and Antigua and Barbuda, which have already enacted these amendments. These amendments empower our central bank to strengthen financial consumer protection, and we anticipate passage in all our member countries before the end of this year.
The phased rollout of the ECCU Credit Bureau has begun, enhancing credit risk management and increasing access to credit, notably for productive sectors and small businesses.
Experience from around the world shows that credit bureaus deliver at least 2 key benefits. They improve credit risk management. You saw the non-performing loan ratio earlier. That 10%, that's high blood pressure. We need it to be under 5%. So that's an issue that we have to work on. But they also deliver a very important benefit. They expand credit. Doubling the size of our economies necessitates credit expansion, especially to the productive sectors and to businesses large and small. The rollout of the Credit Bureau commenced in September 2024, when Antigua and Barbuda became the first country in our currency union to go live on the Credit Bureau. Work is underway to onboard all banks, followed by our credit unions. Partial credit guarantee program. I'll be very brief, but I'm just touching them to give you a sample. For many years, we have observed the high levels of liquidity in our banking system. And simultaneously, we've heard the cries about the lack of access to credit. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a daily choice. We can choose to curse darkness or light a candle. At ECCB, we chose to light a candle with the launch of the Partial Credit Guarantee Program in October 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. As of June 30th, 2025, 228 guarantees with a loan value of $22.7 million and with a guarantee value of $17.4 million have now been approved. This number includes 33 in Antigua and Barbuda. So we're finally on the way. But I want us to pick up the pace on this program. So I need your help. Bankers, I need your help. We need your help. We have to do this together.
The forthcoming establishment of a regional regulator for the citizenship by investment programs in the region is also progressing, with draft legislation available for public review.
The flows from these programs have risen steadily over the years, and now account for about 75 cents of every non-tax dollar collected by the 5 countries with these programs. So when we look at revenue, CBI revenues are non-tax. That's how they classified. Over the past few months, on the invitation of the heads of government with CBI CIP programs, our central bank has led work to establish a regional regulator with the objectives of enhancing credibility, integrity, and sustainability of these programs, these vital programs. Following extensive consultations, a legal framework has now been prepared and is now in the public domain for comment before finalization. And I here want to take the opportunity on behalf of the Interim Regulatory Commission to thank all those of you who have taken the time to send you your comments. We've had very good feedback, both at home and abroad, and we thank you. We now anticipate that this legal framework will be enacted in the relevant member countries before the end of this year.
Governor Antoine lauded the recently signed U.S. $115 million Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility, a partnership between the ECCB, World Bank, and member governments. The facility aims to accelerate the region's transition to renewable energy through infrastructure upgrades and mobilization of private sector investment. The ECCB governor called for unity and accelerated collective action in the face of formidable challenges and unparalleled opportunities.
In a proactive move to encourage preventative health care, prominent insurance company Sagicor Life Incorporated is leading a comprehensive health screening initiative for its clients and the general public. The initiative, which will be held in collaboration with the Windsor University medical team, aims to raise awareness about the importance of early detection and more effective monitoring of one's health status. Services included screenings for blood pressure, heart and lungs physical examination, glucose metabolic rate, body mass index, BMI, body temperature checks, electrocardiography, eye examinations, and consultations from medical professionals. By offering free health checks, the insurance company hopes to empower people to take charge of their health before serious or life-threatening conditions arise. The company also aims to encourage prevention and support better health outcomes and lower long-term health care costs. This initiative reflects a growing trend where private sector entities in St. Kitts and Nevis are taking a more active role in promoting preventative health care and well-being. The company scheduled the health screening for Saturday, July 19, 2025 from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. downtown Bastyr, west of the old Treasury Building.
The quest to meet the growing water demand in St. Kitts is progressing, with notable success through the development of new groundwater wells and adoption of modern technology. During the latest In Focus episode on July 16, 2025, water engineer Cromwell Williams and assistant water engineer Landreth Isaac provided essential insight into ongoing efforts to boost the island's water supply. Currently, the island faces a daily deficit of approximately 1 million gallons, with demand at around 6 million gallons per day. In comparison, the supply from wells and surface sources reaches only 5 million gallons.
Government must first spend its money on finding new sources, additional sources, and hence that is desalination, that is constructing desalination plants, and that is drilling additional wells. Once we have that additional water, of course we know we have to increase the storage, but it makes no sense to first build more storage when you have no water to put in the storage anyway.
A shining example of this well-focused strategy is the recently commissioned well at Keon. It has had a significant impact on local water availability.
That well, which is producing over 400,000 gallons per day, will guarantee that the people of Keon and the surrounding communities have 24/7 water supply. And that is what we're going to replicate around the island.
Expanding on storage solutions, Williams explained ongoing projects.
We are in the process of constructing a 1 million gallon storage tank. We're going to do it in 2 phases. We're going to do 2 tanks. One, the first 500,000 gallon, and then a little later we'll build another 500,000.
He clarified that the purpose of these tanks is to provide about 2 days storage, primarily to safeguard against supply interruptions, stressing that the natural underground aquifers already serve as primary storage. Innovation is driving the search for new wells with the recent adoption of semi-airborne geophysical surveys using drone technology. Isaac detailed this approach.
It's a cost-effective, non-invasive method. Mr. Williams would tell me about the traditional methods before, where they had to drill blindly, basically for some test wells. This was expensive. This would disrupt the land. And so this method of the airborne drone survey just uses a massive drone, as you could see there in the image, and it carries a sensor, and this interacts with some electrodes on the ground. And that interaction gives us a good picture, a subsurface picture of what is happening underground.
Preliminary results from surveys across Brighton, Diabé, Sadlers, and Challengers look promising. Williams added on the advantages of the technology.
It is cost effective. That's one of the thing about it. It is also time effective, because if we were to utilize the ground method, which we have used in the past, to cover such a vast area, would take us months. What using the drone technology, they were able to do in about 2 weeks. That would have taken about at least 6 months to a year.
As the department awaits the final survey report in the next couple of weeks, preparations to commence drilling are also underway.
We have already conducted the request for proposals from a public request for proposals from drilling companies, and we have already selected the winning company, and they have already been granted or given their letter of acceptance. So they are just waiting now for the contract to be signed. The contract is being drafted by the government. It was sent to them recently, just last week. We are now waiting for them to get back to us, and then once we agree on the terms of the contract will be signed, hopefully in the next week or two. And then they've indicated that they will be on island within a month once the contract is signed.
Optimistically, the engineers project a sustainable safe yield of approximately 11 million gallons per day for St. Kitts, with the currently developed capacity of nearly 5 million gallons.
So we're hoping that this study and drilling process will unlock anywhere between 4 to 5 million gallons, I would say, at least.
And that would help to meet the demand.
Definitely. That would put us in a good stead for the next decade or so.
This focused and technological approach demonstrates the nation's commitment to securing a stable water future, striking a balance between development and the safeguarding of natural groundwater resources.
In regional news,
Guyana Vice President dismisses political persecution claim by Mohammed, News Source Guyana reports.
But it didn't take long for Vice President Barrett Jagdeo to rubbish the claims by presidential candidate Azruddin Mohammed that he was being targeted and discriminated against over police presence at his party's headquarters in search of him. At the press conference, Mr. Jagdeo defended the police, saying that the police were in their right to investigate a criminal act. He said from all indications, Mr. Mohammed has been linked to the act by allegedly trying to cover up the matter. Mr. Jagdeo said the public statement issued by Mohammed seemed to be in contravention to the statement issued by the woman, who Jagdeo said told the police that she was threatened and was held against her will. Jagdeo said the police presence at Mohammed's property had nothing to do with his politics, but solely regarding the incident.
The police are obligated by law to, if somebody does that, you're engaged in perverting the course of justice, to question the person. So they're saying because he is Mohammed now, he must not be questioned. The police can't get him. Looking for sympathy again, that they raided him because he's a presidential candidate, not because he was engaged in covering up the brutal beating of this woman who was seeking payment for attending his activity by one of his candidates who is still on his list.
The vice president maintained that Mohammed is not a threat to his party, the PPP, at the upcoming elections. He noted that if the police did not take any action in the matter, it was seen that the laws were not being applied equally.
And the police, if they didn't go, then everybody would say here, oh, you're treating him differently. You're treating him differently. He could do this and he doesn't get into trouble, but you let an ordinary citizen do this, then they will be in big trouble. It's a criminal act. And he's directly linked to it.
Mr. Jagdeo said the story reportedly relayed by the young woman is a horrifying one, and he believes that Mohammed's distancing himself from Samson was just a show.
This is a criminal act. So we just discovered, after he lied once more to say, oh, I'm a presidential candidate, look at how they're discriminating, they raided my headquarters, that the girl who was brutally beaten gave a statement to the police force saying that he took Doggy to his home after the incident, took the girl to his home, and then kept her there basically against her will. And when she tried to leave, they threatened her by showing her a gun, one of his guards, and saying, we know where you live.
As we reported, Mohammed visited the police station for a questioning and was released without any charges or bail being required.
St. Lucia advances low-emission goals with EV and energy waste workshop. DBS St. Lucia has that story.
The drive for energy efficiency and environmental conservation has been a high priority for the Department of Sustainable Development, especially in the context of climate change. With a growing shift toward electric vehicles, the department is not only focused on sustainable transport but also on ensuring the proper disposal of EVs at the end of their life cycle. Stakeholders gathered to map a path forward, as clean energy adoption and minimizing environmental impact remains key pillars of the department's mission.
St. Lucia continues in its transition to electric mobility, and we do that through the support of two projects. That is the NDC Tech project that is supported by the government of Germany, and we also have the Jeff 7 EV project. We look at it from the policy standpoint, a regulatory standpoint. We look at capacity building and training.
Mrs. Pianoforniel emphasized the importance of preparing local mechanics for the growing presence of EVs and the eventual phasing out of internal combustion engines. She also noted that a shipment of EVs will soon be deployed across both the public and the private sectors. Addressing derelict vehicle disposal remains a top concern, given the environmental risk posed by EV components if not properly handled.
What we don't want to do is to create a situation where we transition to electric mobility, electric vehicles or EVs, and we end up with the same situation of not having thought through or planned properly for their responsible disposal. We are looking at avenues and ways, a proposal, mechanisms to ensure that we dispose of electric vehicles responsibly when they get to the end of life.
She stressed the need for citizens to become informed, responsible consumers of green energy to help St. Lucia meet its sustainable development goals. Public education on EVs and renewable energy benefits is vital to transitioning toward a carbon-free future.
We want to move towards cleaner forms of energy, and electric vehicles would represent that kind of cleaner form of energy compared to internal combustion engine vehicles. Through this project, we also want to begin the transition where we don't even charge the vehicles using the traditional electricity, but we want to move to the place where we start to charge those vehicles through solar and the sun being a cleaner source of energy.
While EVs may not yet match the power of traditional engines, their energy efficiency, longevity, and reduced environmental footprint makes them essential tools in the fight against climate change. The Jeff 7 EV project will continue working with Black Forest Solutions Inc. to guide technical planning and stakeholder collaboration for EV and RE waste management. For the DBS News World, Manasseh Stanislas reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
Let's turn to the European Union because they have agreed more sanctions against Russia over its war against Ukraine, targeting its financial and energy sectors. The price cap on Russian crude oil will be slashed to just over $47 a barrel. President Zelensky has hailed the new sanctions as, quote, essential and timely. The Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the EU was striking at the heart of Russia's war machine. Well, let's go to our Euro reporter in Brussels, Sofia Betitsa. And Sofia, tell us a little more then about this round of sanctions, because this is the 18th round, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And it wasn't easy to get there for the EU. Lots of negotiations in Brussels this week. But today we heard from the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Kaja Kallas, saying that this is one of the toughest sanctions packages that the EU has approved yet. As you said, they target, among other things, the energy exports, the banking sector, the military industry. What is new is that they also impose a price cap on Russian oil, and that's significant. That sort of brings that price about 15% below market value. The reason why it's significant is that Russia really relies on exporting oil and gas as a form of revenue. And so Brussels is hoping that by sort of decreasing its reliance on Russian fossil fuels, it will weaken the Kremlin's ability to finance the war. Now, as to whether these sanctions will work, well, I think not in the short term. As you said, Matthew, this is the 18th round of sanctions. Russia is still attacking Ukraine on a daily basis. And Russia has adapted to sanctions like these. It's found ways to trade with other countries, exporting oil to China, for example, and to India. But I think this is as far as Brussels is willing to go for the moment. They say that the sanctions will have an impact over time, weakening Russia's economy. But they are unlikely, very, very unlikely, to stop missile attacks or drone attacks in the short term.
So let's continue with this with Isaac Levy, who's from the Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air, which has been tracking Russia's oil and gas exports for some time now through the course of this war. And welcome here to the programme. Your assessment of this latest round of sanctions.
Thank you very much. Yes, so the 18 sanctions package are significant, as mentioned. It's great to see a lowering the price cap, but this is only likely to have a big impact on slashing Russian export revenues if we see greater enforcement of the price cap policy. We know that the policy has been evaded, and the measures enable it relatively easy for traders to falsely report the price of the oil. These are opaque companies that are registered in countries that do not implement sanctions, and they will write these attestation documents promising compliance with the price cap that are then passed on to, for example, the largest maritime insurers based in London. So since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, about half of all Russian oil has been transported on those tankers that are owned or insured in the West. So this is a measure that we very much welcome, a lowering of the price cap. But what we do need to see is greater enforcement. There are two other areas.
Well, before we get on to those two other areas, sorry to dive in. Tell me more then about the gaps that Russia has been able to exploit over the years then on this, during this war.
Well, one of them is to try and avoid reliance on Western-owned or insured tankers to transport its oil. It used to be about 90% reliant on Western-owned or insured vessels to transport its oil. It then decided to buy what's called shadow tankers, so those tankers perhaps bought on secondary markets with poor insurance or of old age and therefore a lack of maritime compliance. And we at Korea estimate around 600 shadow tankers transporting Russian oil since 2024. Now the EU has sanctioned 100 new vessels, totaling up to over 400, which is significant because when the EU sanctions a vessel, we've seen the amount of oil they're able to transport fall by around a third. On top of that, Russia has invested around 14 billion euros in buying these old tankers, which become less effective after they've been sanctioned. The EU, along with its allies in the UK and the US, need to go further to hit the Russian energy sector, stop financing the war, and as you mentioned, sending more money to Russia than financial aid to Ukraine. There's a big announcement today that the EU plans to ban the import of oil products made from Russian crude in India and Turkey and those non-sanctioning countries. We very much hope that the UK will follow suit, and this oil is around 6 billion euros in value that is getting sent back to Russia.
Do you think any of this will stop China, India taking the Russian oil?
Yes, I think it will have increased pressure on them to stop buying as much Russian oil if they want to be able to export to those key markets such as Europe. And we very much hope that the UK and the EU, the US, will follow suit.
She's young, economically experienced, and knows firsthand how to make deals with the Trump White House. Yulia Sviridenko is Ukraine's first new prime minister in 5 years.
Our task is to give Ukrainians all possible instruments to protect their independence and the life of Ukraine. We will fulfill this task.
No surprises then in what President Zelensky wants his newly reshuffled government to prioritize: Ukraine's war effort.
Ukraine needs more of its own power. We are in the process of transforming our defense system to help us increase domestic weapons production. At the moment, almost 40% of our weapons are produced in Ukraine. Within half a year, we expect it to be no less than 50%.
When Ukraine signed its high-stakes minerals deal with the Trump White House in April, Sviridenko was one of the negotiators. She's also been a deputy prime minister and economy minister, and perhaps just as important, Zelensky sees her as loyal.
New prime minister, she's been involved in negotiations with the United States, and I think she's already well known in American establishment, and it increases our chances that we'll be having better, more constructive relations with the new administration in the U.S.
The man Sviridenko replaces, former Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, he's now the new defence minister. The former defence minister, Rustam Umerov, is now the head of the National Security Council. Finance, Interior and Foreign Ministers all stay unchanged. Now, Ukraine is a war-weary country, and Zelensky is hoping that his spin of the cabinet carousel can give it fresh energy and keep himself surrounded by allies. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, Kiev.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
St. Kitts and Nevis' agriculture minister views the crossroads in Caribbean agriculture as both a challenge and an opportunity.
ECCB highlights financial strength and initiatives amid global uncertainty at chairmanship ceremony.
Sagicor Life Incorporated St. Kitts organizes health screening to promote preventative care.
St. Kitts and Nevis advances water supply through groundwater development. Guyana Vice President dismisses political persecution claim. St. Lucia advances low-emission goals with EV and energy waste workshop. Internationally, European Union places strongest sanctions yet on Russia.
Thank you for listening.